Last time in this series, we took a deeper look at the AFC East and where each team stood going into the 2025 season, looking at new roster additions, coaching changes if there were any, and what each team achieved or underachieved in 2024. I also gave an outlook on the 2025 season with five potential outlooks: contender, competitive, middling, rebuilding, or cellar dweller. Each of those labels are fairly self explanatory, but I also gave a win range for each with 3 game spread for each total. All teams are not created equal in this exercise. For example, just because I gave a middling label to two different teams doesn't mean each team are in the same spot when it comes to timeline and potential. One middling team could be consistently 500 with no real way to reach the top, while another middling team might be in the same win range this year but has the potential and talent to overachieve from last year if they were a losing team. This video, I'm going to be focusing on the NFC East, looking at each team starting with the division and Super Bowl winner Eagles, and working my way down to the last place Giants. The East produced a lot of surprises last year, both good and bad. The Commanders came out of nowhere and made a deep playoff run with a rookie QB and previously thought of shoddy roster, while the Cowboys went all in on a 7-10 record, plagued by injuries and subpar coaching. So let's dive in. First up is the aforementioned Eagles. The 2024 season was obviously a complete success for the Eagles. Usually, if you make the playoffs and win your last game, it's thought of to be a successful season. We won't touch too much on the 23 season since that didn't really play much of a factor with the coaching changes and new talent additions. But 23 was a complete letdown after the Eagles went to the Super Bowl the year prior and then proceeded to lose 5 of their last 6 games and then get blown out by a team they had previously beaten by 2 touchdowns early in the season in the playoffs. After the 23 season, the Eagles recognized their coordinator losses were obviously a big deal and rectified that by hiring two of the top coordinators on the market. One being offensive coordinator Kellen Moore, fresh off the fire sale in LA, and defensive coordinator Vic Fangio coming over from Miami after a mixed bag in 23. In the 24 offseason, the Eagles lost key pieces with the retirement of Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox on the offensive and defensive lines respectively. Safety Kevin Byard, whom the Eagles had acquired during the season with a trade with the Titans, signed with the Bears, along with running back DeAndre Swift. Really, besides the major retirements, the Eagles didn't really let anybody walk in free agency that would sign for big money elsewhere. That would hurt them severely. They went on to make a flurry of moves in free agency, bringing in running back Saquon Barkley from the rival Giants, undervalued linebacker Zach Bond from the New Orleans Saints, defensive end Bryce Huff from the New York Jets, and safety CJ Gardner-Johnson from the Lions, offensive lineman Bakai Becton from the Jets, and gave big-time extensions to in-house talent wide receiver A.J. Brown, offensive guard Landon Dickerson, offensive tackle Jordan Mailata, kicker Jake Elliott, and wide receiver Devontae Smith. In the 2024 draft, the Eagles focused on fixing their secondary early and often, selecting cornerbacks Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo in the first and Cooper DeJean from Iowa in the second. They also took linebacker Jalix Hunt from the Houston Christian in the third and running back Will Shipley from Clemson in the fourth. There doesn't need to be much said about how the 24 season went because, as I said before, they won the Super Bowl, and in convincing fashion. They ran roughshod through the playoffs, only losing by less than a touchdown to the Rams, who they beat 28-22 in the divisional round. The Super Bowl was a slaughter, with their stalwart defense putting on a clinic against a banged-up and thin offensive line for the Chiefs. After the season, the Eagles promoted passing game coordinator Kevin Patullo to the offensive coordinator after Kellen Moore left for the Saints head coaching job, as well as bringing several new assistants after some of their coaching staff was understandably poached after another successful season. This free agency period was a little tougher on Philadelphia, with losses including Josh Sweat, who signed with the Cardinals, defensive lineman Milton Williams, who went to the Patriots, CJ Gardner-Johnson being traded to the Texans a year after re-signing with them after a year in Detroit, and starting right guard Mekhi Becton signing with the Chargers after a year in Philadelphia. Philly extended All-Pro tackle Lane Johnson, running back Saquon Barkley, and center Cam Jurgens to help free up cap space this year. The Eagles went on to add guys like linebacker Aziz Ajulari, tight end Kylan Granson, punt returner Avery Wilson, cornerback Adoree Jackson, and tight end Harrison Bryant in free agency, not really handing out big contracts outside of their own guys. In the draft, the Eagles drafted linebacker Jahad Campbell out of Alabama, safety Andrew Mabuka out of Texas, defensive tackle Ty Robinson out of Nebraska, and cornerback Mac McWilliams out of Central Florida. It's easy to look at their draft picks and see who they are expected to replace in the loss category from last year. But rookies are a dice roll, so who knows if it works out the way they planned. The Eagles, to the shock of no one, are firmly in the contender category. I'm putting their win projection at 10 to 13 wins. They do play the NFC North, who shouldn't be nearly as good this year as they were last year, and the AFC West, who should be better than they were last year, so it kind of evens out. The Eagles should be a Super Bowl favorite with continuity and talent returning from last year, especially on the coaching staff on defense, who should be even better in year two of Vic's system. Next up are the upstart Commanders, who blew everyone away and finished 12-5 and made an appearance at the NFC Championship game before being ran out of the building by their northern rivals. The Commanders last year made huge changes, bringing in new top man Adam Peters to run the entire organization as president of football operations, firing Ron Rivera and his coaching staff, and bringing in ex-Atlanta Falcons head man Dan Quinn from the rival Dallas Cowboys. Their biggest hire was offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury from the college ranks that turned around their offense. In the 24 offseason, the Commanders overhauled their roster, letting guys like linebacker Cody Barton, quarterback Jacoby Brissett, cornerback Kendall Fuller, wide receiver Curtis Samuel, and running back Antonio Gibson walk in free agency, while releasing center Nick Gates, offensive tackle Charles Leno, kicker Brandon McManus, tight end Logan Thomas, and center Ricky Stromberg. They attacked the roster hard in free agency, adding a ton of new players like center Tyler Biotish, defensive end Dorrance Armstrong, linebacker Frank Luvo, guard Nick Algeretti, linebacker Bobby Wagner, running back Austin Eckler, tight end Zach Ertz, and safety Jeremy Chin. The draft is where they landed their crown jewel the offseason, though, and quarterback Jaden Daniels, selected number 2 overall from LSU. They also added Jazon Newton, a defensive tackle out of Illinois in the second, cornerback Mike Sandstro out of Michigan, also in the second, tight end Ben Sano out of Kansas State with their third second-round pick, guard/center Brandon Coleman out of TCU in the third, and wide receiver Luke McCaffrey out of Rice with their third-round pick. Going into the season, the Commanders weren't predicted to achieve much and maybe just focused on player development with their new draft picks and contend in 2 to 3 years. Well, the offense soared under Cliff and Jaden, and the Commanders made the playoffs, knocking off the Buccaneers in the wildcard round, stunned the Detroit Lions in the divisional round before running to a buzzsaw and the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. The Commanders ranked 4th in rushing touchdown, 9th in receiving touchdowns, and 6th in total touchdowns last year. Their defense was top half in the league at 13th in total yards allowed, ranking 3rd in passing defense, but ranked 30th in rushing yards allowed and 18th in touchdowns allowed. The Commanders overachieved last year in comparison to their expectations. During this offseason, the Commanders said goodbye to defensive tackle Jonathan Allen to the Vikings, safety Jeremy Chin to the Raiders, wide receiver Damian Brown to the Jags, and edge rusher Dante Fowler to the Dallas Cowboys. They added tackle Laramie Tunsil and wide receiver Deebo Samuel via trade, signed cornerback Jonathan Jones from the Patriots, interior defensive lineman Javon Kinlaw from the Jets, kicker Matt Gay from the Colts, and Diedrich Wise Jr. from the Patriots. They also locked up linebacker Bobby Wagner Jr., backup quarterback Marcus Mariota, tight end Zach Ertz, and tight end John Bates. During the draft, the Commanders added offensive tackle Josh Connerly Jr. from Oregon in the first, cornerback Trey Amos from Ole Miss in the second, wide receiver Jalen Lane from Virginia Tech in the fourth, and Kane Madreno, linebacker from UCLA in the sixth. The Commanders were obviously low on draft picks this year with trades for Tunsil, Samuel, and Marshawn Lattimore, but made the most bang for their buck out of the draft picks they did have. Commanders are such an interesting team. On one hand, they could easily build off last year and be even better. On the other hand, they could take a step back while teams have adjusted for Jaden and Cliff's offense. It's unfortunate for them that they play in the same division as the Eagles because they are probably favorites in both South divisions. I would firmly put the Commander in competitive territory with a win projection of 8 to 11 wins. The one thing that is holding me back is that when the chips were down, the Eagles eviscerated them in the NFC Championship game. I just don't know if they are true contenders and can go toe-to-toe with the likes of the Eagles, Bills, and Chiefs in the playoffs or Super Bowl. Their win against the Lions gives me hope they could beat anyone on any given Sunday, but on the other hand, the Lions' defense was so banged up it could be seen as a skewed score. I don't know. Like I said, it's just such an interesting team, but I'll stick with my prediction. Next up is America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. Last year was a complete floundering from the Cowboys in comparison to their normally lofty goals. After Jerry made the all-in statement, the Cowboys did absolutely nothing to advance their win total after the 23 season, and in the NFL, you're either growing or you're dying, there ain't no third direction. Last offseason, the Cowboys retained Mike McCarthy for another year after they got boat raced by Green Bay in the playoffs, much to the chagrin of Dallas fans. Be careful what you wish for. The 24 offseason was an offseason of transition with the Dallas Cowboys saying goodbye to center Tyler Biotish to the rival Commanders, defensive end Dorrance Armstrong to the same landing spot, defensive end Dante Fowler again to the Commanders, left tackle Tyron Smith to the Jets, running back Tony Pollard to the Titans, and release of wide receiver Michael Gallup and oft-injured linebacker Leighton Vander Esch. The Cowboys added veteran linebacker Eric Kendricks from the Chargers, defensive lineman Linval Joseph from the Bills, and saw the return of Zeke on a one-year deal. The Cowboys also signed star wide receiver CeeDee Lamb to a huge extension totaling $136 million over 4 years with $67 million guaranteed. In the draft, the Cowboys added offensive tackle Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma in the first, edge Marshawn Kneeland in the second out of Western Michigan, guard Cooper Beebe out of Kansas State with a third-round pick from the Vikings, linebacker Maurice Lifo from Notre Dame in the third with their own pick, and Wake Forest cornerback Saline Carson in the fifth. Now, if that doesn't seem equal to the subtractions and losses in the offseason, you weren't alone, and obviously Dallas fans weren't super enthused about the prospects of the 24 season, and they were completely right. The 24 Cowboys season was a season of disappointment, injury, and frustration with everyone involved. Before the season even kicked off, defensive end Sam Williams was lost for the season with a torn ACL in training camp, as well as cornerback Deron Bland, who only played in 7 games. Cornerback Trevon Diggs played only 11 games, quarterback Dak Prescott played in only 8, DeMarcus Lawrence played in 4 games, and Micah Parsons missed the first 4, and rookie Nealon missed chunks of the season as well. Zach Martin got shut down in early December, and CD battled a shoulder injury on the back half of the schedule. Guys like Tyler Guyton, Chuma Adoga, Tyler Smith, Jordan Lewis, Jake Ferguson, and Kalen Carson also missed time. These injuries, coupled with a lack of depth added during the offseason, was insurmountable. Even when Dak played, he struggled, throwing only 11 touchdowns and 8 interceptions in 8 games played. The offense was abhorrent, especially in the run game. They did rank 11th in passing yards, but 25th in completion percentage, while ranking 3rd in attempts. The rushing offense ranked 26th in rushing yards and dead last in rushing touchdowns with 6. In comparison, the top rushing team, the Bills, had 32. The defense didn't fare much better, ranking 28th in yards allowed, 24th in passing touchdowns allowed, and dead last in rushing touchdowns allowed with 25. After losing a key cog in their defensive coaching staff with Dan Quinn leaving for the Commanders' job, the defense fell like a rock under Mike Zimmer. The Cowboys finished 7-10, third in their own division, and missed the playoffs for the first time since 2020, the first year under McCarthy. After the season, the Cowboys let Mike McCarthy leave after they couldn't come to terms with a new contract, and Mike obviously wanting a longer deal with security, and the Cowboys aiming for a shorter deal. Letting go of McCarthy wasn't a huge shock. What was a shock was Jerry Jones and company waited until the top options on the market were spoken for, or at least in deep courtship with other teams before officially splitting with Mike. Listen, I mentioned in the previous video that the coaching changes I wouldn't focus on too much the previous season since the new guys weren't involved. If you noticed, I did go into it with the Patriots and now I'm doing it with the Cowboys because the guys calling the shots now are the same guys calling the shots then. A lot of the organizational ineptitude stems from the top and percolates down to the field. Jerry Jones and company have made some very bizarre moves the past 15 months, and it matters going into the season. Anyway, after they fired Mike, they interviewed 5 guys officially, 6 guys if you believe the rumors that they spoke to Deion Sanders. After the 5 interviews, they landed on Brian Schottenheimer, who was the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys in 24. And Jerry lauded the continuity factor as a key aspect. There are those that believe this is nothing more than a Gerard Mayo situation, and Jerry really wants Deion, but feels like he needs to wait another year to get him. I don't know about any of that, but maybe. During free agency this year, the Cowboys let guys like defensive end DeMarcus Lawrence leave for the Seahawks, wide receiver Brandon Cooks leave for the Saints, cornerback Jordan Lewis leave for the Jags, and edge player Chauncey Golston leave for the Giants. They added linebacker Kenneth Murray from the Titans, Dante Fowler Jr. back from the Commanders, cornerback Kare Elam from the Bills, running back Miles Sanders from the Panthers, and traded for wide receiver George Pickens from the Steelers. In the draft, they added offensive guard Tyler Booker out of Alabama in the first, edge Donovan Ezraku from the second, cornerback Chevelle Revel Jr. in the third, running back Jaden Blue from Texas in the fifth, and linebacker Shamar James out of Florida with their second fifth-round pick. I'm going to be honest, the Cowboys don't impress me much. I could be eating my words come December, but I just don't have a lot of faith in their direction right now. Coaching matters in this league. As we have seen around the league, that if you don't have at the very least an A-tier coach, it's so hard to win in the NFL, and Jerry just doesn't seem to see it that way since Jimmy Johnson left and he wanted all the glory. I don't believe in the Cowboys coaching staff. That being said, I still think this is a fairly talented roster and put them in the middling category below the Eagles and Commanders, again, probably a 7 to 10 win range, looking more towards the upper echelon of that. Final up in the NFC East are the New York Football Giants. The Giants, a team firmly stuck in the mud, and a lot of it has to do with A, the quarterback situation, and B, odd decisions made by the current administration. After the 2022 season sprang a surprise playoff appearance with a win over the Vikings included, the 23 season for the Giants was a giant reminder that Daniel Jones may not be the guy to lead them to the promised land. After the 23 season, the Giants made a bevel of changes with Don Martindale resigning as defensive coordinator and Shane Bowen being named his replacement. They fired their special teams coordinator, Thomas Mahogany, and replaced him with Michael Gabriel. In free agency, they made the curious decision, and I use that term when I couldn't think of a better one that isn't just flat-out condescending, of letting star running back Saquon Barkley walk and go to the rival Eagles. They also let starting safety Xavier McKinney go to the Green Bay Packers because of cap restraints. Defensive lineman A'Shawn Robinson left for the Carolina Panthers, and starting tight end Darren Waller retired. During free agency, the Giants added defensive end Brian Burns through a trade with the Carolina Panthers and offensive guard John Runyon from the Packers, running back Devin Singletary from the Bills to replace Barkley, offensive tackle Jermaine Illuminar from the Raiders, and quarterback Drew Lock to back up whoever they rolled out as starting quarterback. Before the draft, reports said that the Giants desperately wanted to trade up with the New England Patriots to obtain University of North Carolina Drake May to become their new franchise quarterback, to no avail. The Giants knew the top three quarterbacks would be long gone, with Caleb Williams going to the Bears at 1, Jaden Daniels going number 2 to the rival Commanders, and Drake going to New England at 3, with them stuck at pick 6. The Giants stuck to their board and selected the highest rated player and wide receiver Malik Neighbors at 6 from LSU, safety Tyler Nubin from Minnesota to replace McKinney in the second round, Kentucky cornerback Andrew Phillips in the third, tight end Theo Johnson from Penn State to help fill the void Darren Waller left in the fourth, and Tyron Tracy, a running back from Purdue, in the fifth. The Giants didn't have high expectations from the outside looking in going to the 24 season, and their 3-14 mark speaks for itself. Injuries in quarterback play are a common theme with the Giants and Cowboys. Starting tackle Andrew Thomas suffered a Lance Frank injury, as well as rookie tight end Theo Johnson. Defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence dislocated his left elbow, and cornerback Trey Hawkins III sustained a season-ending back injury. Daniel Jones was benched after a 2-8 start, and Tommy DeVito stepped into the starting role. Jones asked to be released a few days later, and the Giants granted his request. The attempts at offensive line upgrades didn't lead to any bearing fruit either, with the offensive line still struggling in pass protection. The Giants finished 29th in passing yards on offense, last in passing touchdowns, 23rd in rushing yards, 21st in rushing touchdowns, and second to last in total touchdowns, behind only the Browns. The defense struggled as well, ranking 24th in total yards allowed and 21st in points allowed. After the season, there was a deep desire from Giants fans to move on from the coach Brian Daboll and general manager Joe Schoen, with the Giants deciding against either move. The Giants did make a number of coaching changes, but staying status quo with the offensive and defensive coordinator positions. This offseason hasn't been as devastating as the previous, with losses coming in the form of linebacker Isaiah Simmons going to the Packers, edge Aziz Ojulari going to the Eagles, and quarterback Drew Lock going to the Seahawks to back up Sam Darnold. In free agency, they added defensive lineman Roy Robertson Harris from the Seahawks, safety Javon Holland from the Dolphins, cornerback Paulson Adebo from the Saints, defensive lineman Chauncey Golston from the Cowboys, offensive tackle James Hudson from the Browns, and quarterback Russell Wilson from the Steelers. In the draft, the Giants added Penn State edge rusher Abdul Carter Jr. with a third overall pick, quarterback Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss with a trade with the Houston Texans at pick 25, Toledo defensive tackle Darius Alexander in the third, running back Cam Skattebo out of Arizona State in the fourth, and Purdue guard Marcus Mabo in the fifth round. Looking at the Giants team and organization, it seems like a team in desperation. I think there is significant talent at the key positions on the team, mainly the defensive line. The Jackson Dart pick feels like a Hail Mary by a team looking to preserve time and figure things out, hoping maybe having a rookie QB showing promise and potential could buy them at least another year. The Giants are in a cellular category for me, wins going anywhere from 4 to 7. I can't really call them a rebuilding team since this is this regime's fourth year together, and they should already have an established talent base around their systems in place. It's hard for me to see that if Jackson Dart hits and the defensive line dominates, this could be an above average team, but I just don't see it. Thanks again for taking time to watch. The next video in the series we'll be diving into the AFC South, which could be interesting. My views are slowly trickling upward, and I wanted to show my appreciation for these that watch my content. I know I'm just getting started, but having a lot of fun with it. Hopefully I provide some sort of insight and knowledge that is beneficial. I'm trying to keep the upload schedule consistent, but it takes me a little bit to put these together since I write the script, record the audio, edit the audio, and then editing the video itself and creating the thumbnails. It is a lot, but I'm trying my best to be consistent. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.